County Board of Supervisors. Y'all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by the invocation. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Let us pray. Father, we just thank you and for letting us be here and look for your guidance tonight. We just ask for protection upon this nation, and we hope that and pray that the national violence doesn't trickle down here to Appomattox. We just ask you to continue to be with our EMS, our police, and our fire as they do the dangerous jobs to protect this county. And we just appreciate them so much and the men and women serving in those capacities. Let us guide us through this meeting and with safety home. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, setting the agenda. Is there any changes or additions to the agenda?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to add a discussion on the noise ordinance.
All righty. You make that a motion to add the agenda?
Sure. Yeah, I'll make a motion to add just discussion on a noise ordinance as an action item.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Hibbs, a second by Reverend Jones to add an action item of discussion of a possible noise ordinance. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? All right. The agenda has been added. Let's put that into number 4 on the agenda. All righty, next up is citizen comment period. This time is provided by the Board of Supervisors to allow citizens the opportunity to address the board on issues of importance to the citizen. No individual citizen shall be permitted to address the board for more than 3 minutes. We have 2 citizens that wish to address. First is Louis Longnecker. Come up, state your name and address.
Good evening, Lou Longenecker, 147 Country View Lane, Appomattox, Virginia. So last meeting, an attempt was made to persuade this board to take a small step towards getting Appomattox out of the cellar of per pupil educational funding in Region 8. With some time to reflect, I wish to focus on proactively moving forward from last week's very interesting meeting. While there was a lot going on, a big part of the message I got was that it was good to hear from residents. And it's good to have all this new information. But it was too late in the process. The reality is that many Appomattox residents are unable to attend these meetings due to work and family obligations. My situation with 3 kids, most weeks during the school year, there are no evenings free due to practices or activities. Also, I have meetings after school each 3rd Monday of the month. And the second semester is always really busy. My situation is not unique. There are many residents that would love to have communicate with their local legislators. It is unrealistic to assume that a majority of working parents at Appomattox are free to swing by to comment at a budget meeting or at a Board of Supervisors meeting. The wonderful news is there is an easy solution to attain greater community input. Look around this room. There is an abundance of technology. While yes, constituents may email their members of the Board of Supervisors, emails are not entered into the minutes, and there is no way of knowing if the email was received or let alone read. A digital message portal could be established with a residency verification requirement. Residency could potentially be verified through a one-time in-person registration with the appropriate county administrative office, or just go with the ID numbers on the Virginia voter ID cards. A system could be set up with that. You would probably want to establish a deadline prior to the meeting, as well as a word or character limit for obvious reasons. This way, residents who submit their comment electronically with their residency verified would be able to have their comments reviewed by this board and entered into the public comments portion of the minutes. In summation, if this board is serious regarding its desire for greater constituent communication, this low-cost digital remedy would allow for more citizens to have input on important local issues and thus make Appomattox more egalitarian for its working parents. Thanks for hearing me out for a couple minutes. I hope this idea is considered, and I wish each of you a good rest of the week.
Thank you, Mr. Londecker. You did bring up some good points there. Next, we have Mr. Lloyd Page. You got some handouts? Bring it out.
Highlights or stuff. Would you just mind passing this down?
What's that?
Would you just mind passing this down? So, Mr. Carter asked at the last meeting about some information in black and white, and that's on the BDOE website about those documents. And I can explain later if you guys need to. All right, good evening. My name is Lloyd Page, and I live over on Mountain Cut Road. I'm a lifelong educator, having worked in Ottawa County since 2005 as a lead teacher, a coach. Meeting and over social media, board members were boasting about all the extra money the county's provided the school board over the last several years. Up until this new budget, the board has indeed given more than what is required for the required local effort, which is the RLE, and then also for the required local match for incentive and lottery accounts, which was the RLM. According to the VDO website, which are the documents I handed out earlier, of the 130-ish school divisions, there are about 115 that contribute a higher percentage than we do in Appomattox. With your choice to not fully fund both the RLE and the RLM for this next budget, this means we will be only one of 2 counties across the state which don't fully fund the schools. Again, out of 131 divisions, it will be just us in Highland County as the only counties that don't provide their schools with the required amounts. Second point, Mr. Chairman asked, or forced just one individual to state their address at last month's meeting. Again, nobody else was asked for their address. I noticed Mr. Liu was asked today, but I think that's a dangerous precedent with today's situation, especially with violence seems like an option for a lot of idiots out there. Lastly, while coaching, we came here several times over the years for games and matches. I was always in awe of the community spirit and the involvement of the individuals, of the adults. As an opposing coach and team, it was pretty intimidating, but I know it was great for the home team. And then when I moved here several years ago, it was pretty awesome being immersed in it pretty much every day. Just some examples. When I go to the track, I see a dozen dads helping line the football field on Wednesday and Thursday evenings. Mr. Work back there is actually from the Ottawa, and Coach Pettis would tell him, he's the head football coach over there, it's the coaches that line the field on Wednesday and Thursday nights. So just seeing the dads here, that's pretty amazing. I've gotten stuck behind the state championship parades while driving through town. And then when I go out to eat, which I do pretty regularly, I see that all the businesses support all the activities. It's pretty freaking awesome, and the community deserves a lot of credit. But it also needs to be stressed that while the community does do a lot, so do the county employees, the county school employees. They bust their butts organizing these efforts, getting outside stakeholders involved, teaching and coaching the kids, etc. They do this for minimum pay. I talked about it last month's meeting, but I will restate. ACPS teachers are among the lowest paid in Region 8. Furthermore, per pupil spending is the 7th lowest. I lied and said it was 8th lowest. It's actually the 7th lowest in the state. And that's the second document, I believe. They are doing more for less, and this needs to change. One of the members talked about giving money to the Civil War Museum as an investment. Think of schools as the biggest investment we can make. The Cardinal News reports that Appomattox was the fastest growing county among Southside and Southwest Virginia counties. We are primed for even more great things if you all decide to actively fund this investment. Please consider doing so in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Page. Thank you. All righty, next up is the time for appearances. These are scheduled times are provided by the board to allow citizens and organizations outside of county government to discuss matters of importance with the board. And the electoral board has requested to appear before the board to discuss electronic poll books and state grant opportunities. Would that be you, Mr. Seltz?
It is. Hi, I'm Lannis Sills. I'm the Secretary of the Appomattox County Electoral Board and representing the board tonight. This is on a subject that we have discussed before as part of our future capital plan budgeting, is the idea of the implementation of electronic poll books in our precincts for early voting and on election day. This is, Appomattox is one of, I think, 6 out of the 133 districts in Virginia that still uses paper poll books. And that's because we are not early adopters of new technology. We're doing pretty good with the paper poll books. However, the technology is marching on. We're one of the very few that are not using it. And what we're concerned about is that at some point this may become an explicit mandate that we use electronic poll books at some point in the future, or it may be an implied mandate where the state puts reporting requirements or connectivity requirements on us that can't be met without the use of electronic poll books, even though they don't say you have to buy them. They do have benefits that we recognize. That one of them is accuracy. Anytime you've got people marking things down on paper, you know, you've got an opportunity to, there's nothing in the paper that's going to catch your mistake or say, hey, you didn't fill in this box or something like that, which the electronic one can do. Plus, you can do a faster cross-check against other districts to make sure that in the course of the week when we're doing the canvass and the overcheck, to make sure that somebody has not tried to vote in Appomattox that voted somewhere else or vice versa. That's not a timely thing when you're trying to use paper. Also, it's a little, it would be faster than the process we have now. That would reduce the occasional lines that we get in very popular elections at when there's a lot of people there. But again, this is something that we have been living with and can continue to live with if we have to. However, the state apparently has a surplus which they are offering as part of a grant pool to counties to assist with the transition to electronic poll books. And because Appomattox is one of the last few with only paper poll books, we're at the top of the priority list. It's not an unlimited grant. It's had to be prioritized among the different counties, the ones that need them most. So this year, the state's offering an upfront, which means we don't have to do it and then apply for the money to come back to us. They would upfront, and it's also 100%. It doesn't require a match or anything of that sort. It's just a straight up grant to purchase electronic poll books for all the precincts. The value of the grant, based on the number of precincts we have and the number of poll books that we would buy, is about $28,900. We would purchase, if we could take advantage of this grant, that would cover 17 poll books, which would cover an anticipated 7 precincts and the registrar's office for early voting and absentee voting, including spares. The grant was announced in June, right before our June meeting, the electoral board's June meeting, and we didn't have time to get together a proposal to say, well, let's see if this would be a good thing or not. Study it, make sure there's no string attached to it or something like that, and there's not. So we, anticipating this meeting, in which you guys would have to approve moving forward with applying for this grant. We've gone ahead, because there was a July 14th submission deadline for the grant, we've gone ahead and coordinated with your folks to submit it. Now, that doesn't commit us to anything. If you guys say, no, this is a bad idea, we'll just pull all that back and it just won't happen. But if we thought there was a chance we might go forward with it, then we went ahead and moved forward with the grant application. So this is not it's an emergency, pressure, you got to vote on it now. It's nothing like that. If we decide upon mature reflection that it isn't a good idea for some reason, we can just pull it back. So next slide. Okay. In the past, the state, we've seen that the state has offered these kind of grants in anticipation of a potential mandate. One of the ugliest phrases that we ever hear in here is unfunded mandate. Well, here the state is actually proposing to fund what may become a mandate pretty soon. Because we currently have no electronic poll books, we're at the top of the priority list. And we don't know if they would offer this grant again. Typically, these things happen when they have a budget surplus or something of that nature, and they say, well, let's see what we can do with some of this. Of course, the risk is if we decline it and a mandate or necessity for these things happens in the next couple of years, as we have anticipated in our capital plan, then the EPBs would have to be purchased with county funds. Now, the ongoing cost, once we go to electronic poll books, we will have a cost similar to what we have for the DS200 tabulator machines. There's a annual software license and maintenance costs for these things, as there is with any kind of technology. If we maintain a full set of these, it entails an annual maintenance cost and a software licensing cost of about $4,950 annually, which would start in FY 2026. So the trade-off against the $28,900 grant would be that we would start paying that maintenance cost a year or two earlier than we would if we kept the paper poll books for the next couple of years and then went to them, once we had to. Now, we had put in the plan this year, I think, 2 electronic poll books that we would use in the CAP precinct, the absentee voting precinct, just to try them out, see how they work. But, we've got 125 other districts saying these things are great, they work good, once you get it, you're going to love it, and that kind of thing. So we don't really think there's a downside. And we have several of our chiefs of our precincts of officers of election that are anxious to try this out. What we're requesting is that you guys approve moving forward tonight with the grant process for the purchase of these electronic poll books. If there's any questions or any concerns or whatever, I can address those now or anytime.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Carter.
Mr. Sills, how many poll officers would this reduce, or poll workers?
We have to have a minimum number of poll workers to just operate the facility. I mean, you would still have to have people in place to operate these the same as they would operate, same as they would work paper poll books. So we're not proposing that we reduce any officers of election. We do believe that we'd be able to move faster and more accurately with these if we do use electronic poll books.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the board?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion.
Jones?
I'd like to make a motion that we move forward with the grant process for electronic books.
All righty, Reverend Jones has made a motion to go through with the grant process. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Carter, second. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll go to a roll call vote. Mr. Wolfskill.
Aye.
Reverend Jones.
Aye.
Mr. Hips. Aye. Mr. Carter.
Aye.
I vote aye also. We'll proceed with the grant process.
All right, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you for updating us. All right, next we have action items. The first being resolution for the FY 25 to 30 Appomattox County VDOT Secondary Road 6-year improvement plan. Attached for the board's consideration is a resolution for the FY 2025 to 2030 VDOT Secondary Road 6-year improvement plan, which includes Route 644 Hancock Road and Route 675 Cedar Bend Road. After a public hearing on May 20th, 2024, the board adopted the VDOT Secondary Road 6-year improvement plan, and the resolution designates the rural rustic roads and requests that the residency administrator for the Virginia Department of Transportation concur in this designation. Is there any, is there a motion or is there any question on this?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Hips.
just some discussion. Ms. Adams, did we add a road to this, or was it the other?
We
the
added a road.
Snaps Mill? Okay.
So that's down on the priority, and I think they've got the top
And that-
3 in there.
And that's fine. I just wanted to make sure it was added on.
Yes.
Okay. All right, thank you.
And your minutes, this more or less ratifies the minutes that were documented, your motion back in May. And apparently VDOT has a new process now, and each locality has to adopt this resolution. So our minutes didn't suffice in the language that they needed because it didn't reflect the Code of Virginia.
Yeah, I thought I didn't remember doing one
Okay.
in previous years. All right, then the chair is open to a motion to approve the resolution.
So moved.
Mr. Hips has moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Reverend Jones is second. Any further discussion? Okay. All those in favor of approving the resolution, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution has passed.
We got
That's correct, Ms. Adams. Resolution doesn't
Should be
require
roll
a
call.
voice. Okay, voice. Yeah. All right, let's go back to the voice. Mr. Wolfskill. Reverend Jones.
Aye.
Mr. Hips.
All right.
Mr. Carter.
Aye.
And I vote aye also.
Bill's Road is on that.
Okay, next up
That's over there now. We had a lot of discussion on that.
is setting a public
That's all
hearing,
right, no matter.
scheduling a public hearing, number CPU 240381, Coles Farm LLC / Tillman Infrastructure LLC. Coles Farm LLC, property owner, and Tillman Infrastructure LLC applicant has requested a conditional use permit for a wireless communication facility cell tower on property located adjacent to 10063 Red House Road and near the intersection of Evergreen Avenue. The property is identified as tax map number 76A11. Access to the cell tower will be through tax map A76A10. The purpose of the cell tower, the proposed cell tower is 235 feet in height. The Planning Commission held a public hearing in June where one citizen spoke. The Planning Commission voted unanimously at its July regular meeting to recommend approval of the CUP with conditions. The board will need to hold a public hearing prior to consideration of the petition and the Planning Commission recommendation. So do I hear a motion to set the public hearing for this cell tower during the August 19th board meeting?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Carter's moved. Is there a second? Mr. Wolfskill, second. All righty, motion is made and seconded to schedule a public hearing on the cell tower on August 19th.
I don't know if that's next to the apartment.
Mr. Wolfskill.
Aye.
Reverend Jones.
Aye.
Mr. Hips.
Aye.
Mr. Carter.
Aye.
I vote aye also. All righty, next we have the consent agenda. The consent agenda includes
Chairman.
approval of,
Our action item that we added, number 4.
oh, excuse me. Thank you, Mr. Hips. All right. Next is the number 4, the action item, discussion of a possible noise ordinance. Mr. Hips, you got the floor.
Yeah, we do have a noise ordinance. This would just be kind of a general discussion and possibly recommendation to send something to the Planning Commission so they can investigate it. I have had for a number of years had complaints from a specific neighborhood that there is one home on the road out in front of this neighborhood that just blasts profane music constantly. And usually on the weekends, I say constantly, but typically on the weekends. And they follow the noise ordinance, which, would prohibit that sort of thing after, I think, 11 p.m., Johnny. Johnny, you might as well come up here because I'm going to need you in here. Sorry, bud. There's a lot of nuance involved in this. People have a First Amendment right to play music, and they have a First Amendment right to play profane music, unfortunately. But maybe looking into this from a different angle, can we make it so that there is a reasonable decibel level or something like that somebody can enjoy their music on their own property? I don't know. I don't know what the solution is, and there may not be a great solution. But just for constituent service, this is something that they've put up with for long enough. It's a number of homes, a number of complaints, and they don't want to have their kids outside listening to, every swear word you can think of and every other inappropriate, graphic thing that's in this music. And so I want them to be able to enjoy their property. I want the person that plays their music to enjoy their property too. But it would be nice if they could both coexist. Not that I support the music, but just saying. My only hesitation with going to the Planning Commission, Johnny, would be that this gets away from us in the sense of as soon as you start talking about noise, you're going to get other complaints too. Well, I don't like this thing. I don't like this dirt bike riding by my house. I don't like this garbage truck. I don't like, all that. And I'd really like to tie it specifically to looking at this issue and, fleshing that out maybe with the county attorney or whatever, and just doing some research and seeing if there's anything that could be done. So I'm asking you guys if you would support sending that to the Planning Commission. I don't know that we need a unanimous support of that in the first place, but either way, if anybody else has anything to add.
I just wanted to add, Mrs. Kemp is participating remotely,
Okay.
so she's hearing your discussion.
Yeah, and I, in full disclosure, I had emailed her about this previously, and it's a tough issue to deal with, and I just want to at least have some research done to see what we can do. Is there other localities that deal with this sort of thing in a good way? I'm never about restricting anybody's rights to do things, and so that's what I want to be careful of.
So I have a question, is it possible to have a conversation with the neighbor?
I don't know, I don't know what's been done there, honestly. I just know that this has been years, that it's been brought up to me by multiple people. And so I can't imagine the person isn't aware of what they're doing. But I don't know if anything's been said to them or not.
Mr. Chairman,
Carter.
I'd like to ask Mr. Rourke, remember when we engaged in this very topic and the ordinance was written, and then it was more targeted toward dogs barking?
Correct.
And you had to have, was it 15 minutes of continuality of
Yes.
dogs?
After 11 p.m. or something.
Yeah.
They give them a few minutes, 15, I think,
I
to
think
settle
it is
down
too.
once they arrive on scene.
Yeah.
And then there's a certain amount of time, correct.
Now, I know that town has an ordinance in regards to the music and all, X amount of decibels, I don't know what it was. I know they have that. Does the county have anything in regards to music?
Not until after 11 p.m.
Right,
Not until after 11 p.m.
correct.
Yeah, and that's what maybe we should look into. What is a reasonable volume that somebody can enjoy on their own property?
But what would happen if you reversed it? You see, you can't.
Mr. Hubbs, or Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Ms. Camp?
Mr. Hubbs did ask me to look into it, and I have. And he's correct, it's not an easy thing. I do think, I have a few ideas, one of which is you all currently have 11 p.m. to 6 a.m. Obviously, that's, you could change those. And you do have a pretty extensive noise ordinance in terms of you address animals as well as loud noises and I think vehicles as well. So there are some things that you all could change. You do have a decibel, the decibel measurement of 80 decibels. That obviously is not set in stone. So there are a few things. It is a difficult thing to regulate or, you have, as Mr. Hoops was saying, you've got a neighbor situation that sometimes neighbors don't want to be confrontational with other neighbors. So there's a lot that goes into it, but I'm happy to work with Mr. Work and send some ideas to the planning commissioner or to the board that you all want to discuss.
Yeah, that's all I'm asking.
I'd certainly support it, because there's a lot of times, I mean, even to sit in a stoplight, car pulls up next to you, and it's like you're blown out of your own vehicle by the music. So can't imagine what it'd be to have one living next to you, or have that situation next to your home. Any other comments from the board? All righty, then, I guess it's, you got a job, Johnny.
Thanks, John.
Yeah, you're welcome. All right, next, consent agenda. The consent agenda includes approval of all bills, minutes, supplemental appropriations, line item transfers, and fund transfers. Any item on the consent agenda shall be removed from the consent agenda at the request of any board member prior to the vote on the consent agenda. Items removed from the consent agenda shall be considered by the board individually in order in which they were removed from the consent agenda immediately following consideration of the consent agenda. Does anyone have anything to remove from the consent agenda? Or questions? All right, hearing none, I accept a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Reverend Jones has moved to approve the consent agenda. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Hips, Mr. Carter, do you have a?
I got one question, Mr. Chairman,
All righty.
and I just learned this yesterday. I never thought about it. But going back to the radios, I heard the Secret Service, they couldn't talk to the FBI, and the FBI couldn't talk to the locals, and locals couldn't talk to fire department, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Will our new system take care of that? Yes, when I say that, can we talk to Campbell County or Prince Edward?
Well, can I postpone that till we get the supervisor's concerns? Because right now we're talking about the consent agenda.
Okay.
So. All righty, motion been made and seconded to approve the consent agenda. Is there, Mr. Websco? Aye. Reverend Jones?
Aye.
Mr. Carter? You approve the consent agenda?
I would have to say no until I find out what the answer is.
All right. And Mr. Hips?
Aye.
And I vote aye also. I guess I need to, all right, Mr. Carter, what on the consent agenda references your question?
It's item number 6. And the question is, does our new radio system correspond with the, say, adjoining counties, public works, public fire departments, police, all of that?
Sheriff Richardson, could you come up and answer that?
Mr. Carter, to answer your question, is a complex answer. It's yes and it's no. So as of right now, there are different radio systems. So like talking to Campbell and Lynchburg, they're on Region 2000, so we got to get permission. And we're on an analog system, they're on a digital. So we have the capability to do it, so we just got to get permission to do it. When it comes to the fire department and all that stuff, we do have those capabilities at this point now, yes.
Okay, let me ask you this, Sheriff. You said you got to have authorization to do it from who or whom?
Campbell County Sheriff, City
Oh, I
Clerk,
see.
Sheriff,
Okay.
Chief, those individuals in charge of their channels.
Okay. I appreciate that.
So, there's no problem. What these are, dual band radios, which were approved and the grant came for before y'all last time they asked for. So if we ever decide to move our stuff forward, as we talk about, we're on an analog system now, moving forward to a digital. It's just a flip of a switch at this point now, instead of having to go buy all new radios now. So we do have the capabilities, we're just not using them.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Sorry, I didn't realize, if you'd said it's in reference to item 7, I might have
Oh.
handled it differently, Mr. Chair.
He forgot his glasses. He couldn't
Well, I'd love to see that.
All righty, Ms. Adams, you have an administrative report.
Yes, I do. You have the report before you, and there were just a couple things that I wanted to highlight in the report. And it was under the sports complex. You know, we had the state Dixie baseball tournament, and it speaks of all the work that was performed at the sports complex for the youth. And also thanks to Jeff and his staff, because they worked diligently for weeks to make sure that we presented ourselves well to everyone coming in to that tournament. Also, the Blue Ridge Regional Jail, we had a special call meeting, and the director's position was vacated because he resigned, and it's being filled by Mr. Trent, who was the former director at the jail, and he's agreed to serve for 2 years as the interim director until they can set some long-term and short-term goals that it will help a transition of the new director. And the VOTEC Center, some of you have been asking questions about that. And Mr. Rourke and I met with the Planning District Director and also CVCC's Associate Vice President. And that project is moving forward, and the grants are going to be spent to purchase equipment. The equipment will be owned and managed by Central Virginia Community College. And they're also doing the electrical and HVAC upgrades, and that will be included in the grant also. And last, the Carver Price Legacy Museum, congratulations, they received an award from the Virginia Department of Historic Resources. They were awarded $285,000 for the museum. I did want to comment, I really didn't have this written in the report, but when we were talking about per pupil expenditure, and I'm looking here, and this report's wrong because it said in FY '23 that local contribution was $6.9 million, and it was actually $7.2 million. And so I'm not sure, since I don't put these figures together for the report, I'm not sure how that's determined. So that would show a lower per pupil expenditure. And I had, some of you had asked me to research that also in the Virginia Department of Education website. And it said when calculating this expenditure, the per pupil expenditure, it says it does not include certain expenditures. And some of those expenditures are capital outlay, which would be expenditures for property, buildings, and alterations by school district staff, debt service, private funds from organizations like parent-teacher associations, state education agencies, and other expenditures for community service, private school programs, adult education, and other programs not allocable to expenditures as per pupil in public schools. And it also went on to say that there's really no defined way of determining what that is, because every locality calculates it differently. So it's really hard to sit down with one number and divide it per pupil and get what that per pupil expenditure is, because it's different numbers that are used each time it's calculated in each locality. So I hope that kind of addresses some of those questions that you've been receiving about that per pupil expenditure.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Carter?
I might add that never have I ever heard that we never met the minimum requirement. And I think the gentleman said, yes, you have, but I don't ever remember it. No, no.
You can send an email in to ask a question. Any other comments on administrator's report?
Thank you, Mr.
Ms. Adams, do we know what Carver Price is going to do with that 285? Or?
No, I'm supposed to meet with them because that money actually flows through the county, and then we have to generate a check back to Carver Price. So they have to put a scope of work and how it would be utilized. But there was a mention just over the phone verbally, but I haven't seen the paperwork, that it would be utilized to pay staff that they were not able to get during the first funding opportunity.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions on administrator's report? Yes, Mr. Wesco?
I can't find it. The animal shelter question.
Oh, I do, yeah.
Are we doing something to alleviate that?
We are looking at a new camera system.
Okay.
It's going to be under $1,500.
Yeah.
But we have problems with people dumping animals, and in the past, there's been some issues with just people walking around to the runs and throwing animals over fences. They've actually gone in and stolen animals, so we don't have any coverage around the building, and we're trying to alleviate that problem by putting in the cameras. Also, I mentioned about the county attorney having the RFP out, and 2 board members have responded they would like to participate. And if the 3, Mr. Hinkle, I think Mr. Wolfskill wanted to, any of you 3 want to, let Mr. Spencer know. And I've got those dates in the report.
And this is what, I'm sorry.
That's the RFP for the county attorney services.
Okay, so how many
It would be
people, how many personnel you gotta have?
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't
We can
matter.
have as many or as few. But we want to encourage board members if you would like to participate.
Thank you for that, Ms. Adams. Any other reports or informational items? I guess the only thing I got is we got a handout from Williams Pipelines on safety and awareness, and they're asking questions of the Board of Supervisors. You know, if we receive brochures, do we know where the right-of-ways are? And I don't know if we want to respond to that questionnaire or not, but I'll pass it along and take a look at it. Sam?
In conjunction with that, John Benoit is trying to coordinate a meeting or a training with the pipeline and the emergency services agencies about pipeline safety or what to look for in any type of event. So he'll send that out to you guys too, if you want to participate.
If there's nothing else, then we go to supervisor concerns. This is time for the individual board members to share information with other members of the board and the public. Items presented under this heading require action. That require action will be future meeting agenda or request additional information from staff members. No item presented under this heading shall be acted upon on this meeting without the unanimous consent of the board. So, Mr. Wolfskill, you have any concerns?
Not concerns. Not a concern, but last week I attended the meeting with the electoral board to go over the consolidation maybe, or I forget the phrase, of precinct offices voting. And of course, nothing's done yet, but they asked me to share with the board stuff they're looking at just because they want it shared with the board. They're looking at the personnel savings, the maintenance on machines, program costs, vendor programming for all the equipment is pretty good cost. And the number of ballots, that's not big money, but it's something that the ballots come in quantities, wrapped quantities. So sometimes they only need 105 ballots, but they'll have to take 200. And that would change, of course, if they change the voting locations. The mileage that's involved, driving around and take care of everything. Capital cost to repair the equipment and the buildings. And then, of course, he talked about the need to buy the electronic poll book. Like Lana said, that's not, the state's not telling us we have to do that now, but they see the writing on the wall that we're going to have to do it. And his point is now the state is giving the money. The only thing the county uses the AG building for is for voting. So they thought potentially that could be something we could sell. That's just their random thoughts that they're wrestling with now. And they wanted to make a point that they're pretty tight with the dollar. They're trying to watch areas where they can save money. And that's what's going on right now. And that's all I had.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Wesco. Reverend Jones, have any?
No, sir.
All right, Mr. Hibbs, have any? Mr. Carter?
No, sir.
I don't have anything either. All righty, next upcoming meeting is Monday, August 19th, 2024 at 6 PM, regularly scheduled meeting, Board of Supervisors Meeting Room, 171 Price Lane, Appomattox. And at this time, we're going into closed session. Just going to read the,
Would you like me to do it, or can you hear me?
She can do it.
all right, go ahead, Ms. Kemp.
Whereas the Board of Supervisors of Appomattox County desires to discuss in closed meeting the following matters: consultation with legal counsel employed or retained by the public body regarding specific legal matters requiring the provision of legal advice by such counsel regarding the Department of Social Services. Whereas pursuant to Section 2.2-37118 of the Code of Virginia, such discussion may occur in a closed meeting. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Supervisors of Appomattox County does hereby authorize discussion of the aforestated matters in a closed meeting. Just need that in the form of a motion.
Do I have a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Mr. Carter, moves. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Wolfskill, second. How do you vote, Mr. Wolfskill?
Aye.
Reverend Jones?
Aye.
Mr. Hibb? Aye. Mr. Carter?
Aye.
I vote aye also.